Boom! Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's Metallica Monday. I'm Lars Ulrich. No, I'm not. Obviously. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week, another absolutely packed week here on Men's Radio. It's a pleasure. When I was growing up and you were listening to the radio, right, and everybody would say, "Oh, you listen to the DJs." I never ever wanted to be a DJ. I wanted to be a radio broadcaster. And good morning to you up in Edinburgh, Veronica Curran. I hope you're well. Hope you're, having a great weekend. I had a terrible weekend. It was absolute rubbish. And I always, when I was, you'd be listening to like Radio 1 as it was in the, hi, everybody, I had a fantastic weekend. I did this on that. I had a shocking weekend. I had plans for Saturday and I woke up and I just felt appalling. I don't know if it was late reaction to the flu shot. I don't know what the hell it was, but whatever it was, I couldn't move. Saturday was just wiped out. So that didn't put me in a great mood. And then Sunday, I didn't speak to anybody till the evening, which was nice. I had a very, very pleasant evening. And the rest of the day was rubbish, to be honest with you. I always love it. How was your weekend? How are you feeling? How's everything going with you today? We're going to talk about so much stuff today. As you've noticed, my little hat wearing, cravat sporting, jacket wearing, I was going to say friend, but let's not be silly about it. Is still on. He's still on his holiday. He's traveling. I don't know what car he's using. God only knows. Probably a 1934 open top blower Bentley, knowing him. Oh, did you notice me? Oh, I don't know why. So last time I saw him, I think he was up in, where did he go? He went to Liverpool, and then he went to the Cotswolds. I don't know where the hell. I think he's in the Cotswolds. God knows. He's probably visiting a cravat factory, going to a museum, the history of cravats. Andrea Lucas, thank you, mate. But yep. Andy, hi, how are you? Let's dash up to Fife in Scotland and say hello to Sue Sleet, who's probably within shouting distance. She could probably throw a haggis at Veronica Curran, who's over in Edinburgh. Andy Lucas, what? Andy Lucas, the president of the Phil Day fan club, he's in the Cotswolds. Thank you so much for that. Now, last week, I was hacked. My emails were hacked, right? David Wimble. Now, David Wimble, here's another one. Here's another one with a collection of jackets, the likes of which, outside of Patrick McGowan in The Prisoner, you've never seen. David Wimble, who heads up Deluxe Radio and Radio Waves, who take our broadcasts and seem to really love them. Thank you, David. Hope you're feeling better, mate, and all your email woes are over. No, my email woes are in the middle of. I have no emails. I'm just getting into my man flu, a bit like childbirth, but much worse. Obviously. I don't know why women go on about childbirth. I think such a big deal of it. Man flu. Then they'd shut up about it, right? Then they'd be quiet. For God's sake. Michael Verby, all the way from Spain. Morning, Russ. Sounds like paradise. Oh, it's just terrific being in the UK at the moment. Flu jab? Yep, I got that. That was all right. Petrol crisis. Eco-idiots. Can't wait to return. Michael, don't bother. Michael, for reasons best known to himself, lives in Leeds. He went down to visit his sister Stacey for a few days. In Spain, right? A few days. He's still there. It's been months. I'm not joking. It has been months he's been in Spain. What the hell is that? You think, is she fed up with you yet? Is she saying, Michael, haven't you got a home to go to? Which is the question, Michael. Do you have a home to go to? Did you turn off the hob? Did you turn off the gas on the ring? I got a phone call. Oh, the gas crisis. Oh, the gas. I said, I don't have any gas in my home. What? I said, no, I haven't got any gas. I don't care. It's insane. We're going to get onto that later. I want to talk about petrol nuttiness, all of that. But let me introduce to you my first guest of the week. Now, I've known this chap for absolutely ages. He is a charming man. More importantly, he set up all the tech, apart from the tiny little tiny bits of pieces that Phil Dave pretended he did, will not be returning to Leeds. News update. Michael Verby will not be returning to Leeds. Shall I tell them? Do you want me to warn Leeds? The flags will be at half mast in the whole of Leeds. Michael Verby not coming back. That's probably Yorkshire. I don't know. It's north of Watford Gap. Who cares? Paul Claridge. Morning, Russ, says Paul Rose. Hi to you, Paul. Paul Claridge. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, Christ. Now this leads straight into my guest, and this is pure bad serendipity, bad for the people involved, great for radio. It's cruel, isn't it? Paul Claridge says, "Good afternoon, everyone. Can I have a big shout out for my mate Otter?" That is a person, not an animal, an aquatic animal. He had a heart attack yesterday morning. God Almighty, and is being well cared for by our lovely NHS. When things are terrible, they're pretty good. When things aren't terrible, well, let's not get there. Ramsey Wymersan and bonjour, folks. Still no Phil. Has he got Stockholm syndrome? I think Andy Lucas has captured him as a sex slave. That's what I think. That is my personal view. James MacArthur, who's coming on in just a sec. Poor Otter, I can fully relate. Take it easy. We're going to talk about that. And oh my God, now we go to Cyprus. So we've been to Fife in Scotland, Edinburgh in Scotland, the south of Spain, and now we go to Cyprus, in it. Greetings from Cyprus. Only 33 degrees here. Sen, I hate you. I hate you so much. I cannot encapsulate how much I hate you. Cheeky bugger. Well, it's true. I think you look, Andy. We're all grown up here. If you've got Phil as your sex slave in your either in your attic or cellar, good luck. I think you should keep him there. Frankly, hang on. Paul Rose, Boreham Wood needs a shout out and leveling. I just got that. He says Boreham Wood needs a shout out and leveling. Right. Let me bring on my first guest of the week. He's a really nice guy, and he's been through. Sen, I might get you back on because looking at you from Cyprus, that would be hilarious and annoying at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, James MacArthur. Hello, James.
Hi, Russ.
How are you? I love the relaxed pose. Get you, Mister Chilled, Mister Chilled.
It's the chair, honestly. It makes me slouch.
It is. Listen, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you.
Let's kick off. It's weird because Paul Claridge, who's a lovely man when he's not fighting off drug gangs in East Croydon as he gives out free newspapers. If only I was making that up. It's all true. He has the worst his life. I don't know how he keeps smiling. He's such a lovely man. You, to everyone's horror who knows you, and we all like you because you're a very, very nice guy. You had a heart attack. That's not why you're here to talk about, but you had a heart attack out of nowhere.
Back in November, yeah, just come out of COVID, had COVID, sorry. Just came out of that, first day back to work, massive heart attack, 10 blood clots in the aorta. Wasn't nice at all.
Could you speak a little closer to the mic? Would you mind? I'm so sorry. There we go. That's beautiful. First of all, because I know people are scared, understandably, what did you feel like when you had COVID? I'm not being morbid, but people need, you hear so many different stories. What was happened to you?
COVID, I mean, I had all the symptoms, but it wasn't bad. It was just like a small bout of flu, apart from losing the sense of smell and taste. That was very weird. But other than that, I didn't feel that bad at all, really.
So how did you know? So James, how did you know it was COVID then?
As soon as I had the symptoms, I got a PCR test.
Wow, and it came up obviously positive, and you thought, oh bugger, I've got COVID.
Absolutely, yeah. That was right. And now you've got to isolate and stay at home and stay away from everyone.
Wow.
So that wasn't fun.
And so you think, well, life's bad enough. I've got COVID, and then.
As soon as I went back to work after I'd done my isolation and the symptoms had gone, apart from taste and smell, right. Just suddenly got blood clots and was rushed into hospital straight away. Absolutely, the NHS were fantastic.
So walking us through this, because heart problems and heart attacks are effing frightening. All right.
Very.
What what did you feel? What actually happened?
I woke up with a bad back and a bit of a chesty cough.
So, and you hadn't had a bad back previously?
No, no, it was just this morning.
So you just
Um,
think, ouch, my back hurts.
yeah, I
Wow.
took a spray of salbutamol just to clear my lungs,
Right.
and all of a sudden it was like I was wearing a steel vest with two Bunsen burners on my back,
Oh my God.
just heating up. And I mean, I don't know how I even made it into work. Um,
Jeez.
and then I was doing some work on the computer, trying to ignore it, have a coffee, and I thought I need to be outside. I need some fresh air, and I was walking around with my arms crossed across my chest
Oh.
because they'd both gone dead. Came back in, basically collapsed on the floor, and asked my colleague if he would call 111 for me.
And he said, I'm sorry, I'm going out for lunch, James, but I'll be back
Yeah.
in an hour.
Yeah, no, he did take one look at me and say, no, 999 time.
James, can I ask you this? This is such a bloke thing to do. You're feeling absolutely terrible, right? Clearly something is very amiss. And what
Yeah,
do? You go into work.
well, I
Can you
just had
walk us
14 days
through
off.
why? What did you think you had? I mean, seriously, did you think you had indigestion, or what did you think?
I just thought it was maybe a pulled muscle in my back originally. It was, and I just had 14 days off of work, so I needed to get back to look after my clients and
Yes.
and get some work done, get the backlog cleared. So it wasn't about being manly. It was just like, I'm sure it'll go off, and then it didn't.
Wow.
But
Here's a
yeah,
comment coming in. Hang on, we're going to come back to that. Here's a comment coming in from Cyprus. Can you believe this? It says, Simon, the thing I found with COVID that is every little illness or weakness I had on previous operation exacerbated it to the point of almost killing me. Yeah, I mean, Sen phoned me during the middle of this, and it was not a good phone call. I'm not being rude about Sen at all. He was in. It was a very disturbing thing to listen to. He was right in the middle of it. It was horrible. So you tell your colleague finally when you're kind of lying on the floor thinking, this isn't good. And what, the ambulance came, and then what?
first responder came, took all my vitals, said yes, you definitely need an ambulance. Then the ambulance came, and then the paramedic came after that, so they could give me Oromorph to help relieve the pain. It didn't do anything.
That's liquid. That's liquid morphine, if I recall?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they blues and twos me straight up to the hospital. As soon as I arrived, onto a gurney, straight into the operating theatre, and they stuck a stent in. Took, I don't know, when I was there, maybe 10 minutes, and
You've been there 10 minutes and they put the stent in.
Yeah, it was so quick.
Wow,
Absolutely
what?
amazing service.
You see, this is the thing, isn't it, about the NHS, right? When it's something that isn't like a heart attack, people can moan and groan, and I totally get it. I get that. Sitting in A&E for 6 hours because your kid's got a cut finger or something or whatever, is infuriating. You think, how can it take this long? But when it really comes down to the wire, when something awful like a heart attack has happened to you, they swing into action in ways that are truly jaw-dropping. They're extraordinary.
Fantastic. Absolutely amazing.
I'm going to ask a question only because I've known you a long time. Do you reckon they saved your life?
Oh, most definitely. Well, my colleagues saved my life and the NHS saved my life, most definitely. It's one of the things that almost everyone who's had a heart attack says is you get this profound sense of you are about to die. You're about to die. And that's,
oh my God.
That's really scary, but it just opens your eyes to the situation you're in. And I knew, but I was shuffling off, for want of a better term.
When you thought that, I didn't even know we were going to go into this, but because we know each other, I feel I can. And you know more than anybody my golden rule on men's radio. If you don't want to go, they say, Russ, I don't want to talk about it. It's fine. We're not the BBC. It's not an interrogation. It's a conversation. But it's an important point because I want you to be comfortable. when it flashed through your mind, oh my God, I'm going to die, what were the main, apart from the fact, oh shit, I'm going to die, obviously, what was kind of going through your head, if you can remember?
I can remember vividly because it still goes
Okay.
through my head every day.
All right.
But I mean, it was stupid things like, how am I going to take care of my clients? How am I going to move them over to someone else to do it? Who can I talk to take over my business? Who's going to look after my wife?
Yes. I
Who's
couldn't
going to
help
look
but
after jobs?
notice. I couldn't help but notice there, James. Sorry, I couldn't help but notice there was a whole shopping list of work stuff, and then finally at sort of item number 15, who's going to look after my wife? Do you think that you think you might want to reconsider? Okay, I'll re-edit the program. Maybe I should ask you again. Hey, James, was looking after your wife your first concern? Yes, Russ, it was. Oh, thank God for that.
Absolutely, yes. My wife was
Yes, your
paramount in my
first.
life.
That's extraordinary. There
It's
you are
stupid things
thinking
that go through
that's
your
your
head.
final moments, and your thoughts are all about work.
Well, you don't want to let people down, do you? It's not about yourself that you're thinking of. It's the mess you're leaving behind that you need someone else to clear
But
up.
but James, it's work. It's
I
just
know.
what it's. I know. I mean, you're dedicated to work. I'm dedicated. Fine, I get all that, but it's still at the end of the day, work.
Well, it was one of the contributing factors to the heart attack was the stress I was under because of the work, and I was focusing totally on that. So
Explain to everybody.
since then,
Explain to everyone that thinks you're running the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. Explain to everybody. Yes, he's Mr. Hadron. Explain to everybody what it is you do, because otherwise there's no context.
I run a web design and graphic company in Newark. We look after about 200 clients.
There we go. There's the money shot, and I've been there. Did you move? Did you move from where I came up in Newark? Newark was sweet. I rather liked it. A train journey.
Yes, we had offices in Newark, but then during the first lockdown, unfortunately, our office landlady died, and so we
Please tell
couldn't
me
stay
not of
in
a
the
heart
office.
attack, because that'll freak me out.
No, it wasn't a heart attack. It was actually misadventure
Something else. It was
completely.
something else. Okay, we will
Yeah.
gloss over that.
So we had to. I converted. I had a big garage at my house, so I converted that into an office. You can see friends and
All
colleagues
right.
behind me.
Yeah, because I have never been to a room with so many screens in my life. And I've
I
hung
want
around
three more.
television studios for forever. It's extraordinary. So I'm just absolutely fascinated that your thoughts, as you really thought this was it, was like, what about, it wasn't about you, was it? It wasn't about you. It was about everybody else.
Precisely. It was nothing to do with, oh crap, I wish I'd lived a better life. It was more of a case of, right, what can I do to damage limitation on my company, for my wife, to make it easier on others.
I'm staggered. Here's Sue Sleek coming in from Fife up in Scotland. And says people forget heart attacks can happen at any age. I worked with children in neonatal care who suffered heart attacks. Oh my God, Sue! Do you know I
Whoa.
didn't realize? I didn't realize that.
Oh, that's
Then, and this is horrible. Then watch my son at 19 years old have one at the Christmas table. Good God,
is your son all right, sir?
Sue!
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Veronica Curran in Edinburgh is saying, well, James's first thought was work because he was in his office. No, I think, Veronica, it's because of the person that he is. And I mean that in a positive, very nice way. He's a very, very dedicated guy. It's interesting because I've never been able to ask anybody, and I don't suppose we have, you thought you were going to die. What? I nearly died once. I thought I was going to die in a plane crash. And I hardly am the bravest of people in the world. I don't pretend to be. And when I thought this, it was when I was flying home, we'd had a horrible accident. And it was a miracle. A miracle. I'll tell you one day, the miracle we weren't killed. And I was completely calm. It was the most extraordinary thing. I thought I'd be screaming and yelling, like a girl in a school playground or something. No, I was absolutely prepared to die, completely calm. That afternoon, I went to pieces. I can remember it. I was actually writing, and joking aside, I was writing ad libs for Noel Edmonds for something. So I was writing loads of scripts. I used to do scripts all the time then. And wow. I- you know, and I was sitting at my then typewriter, and my hands started to shake like crazy. Couldn't control. Had to go home. And then I had very, very disturbed dreams for about a year. And
Me
that
too.
was it. So I had a complete delayed reaction. Now, I will answer this question. You posed a very good question, James. And Susie says, I'll let Russ answer that, James. He knows Dave. Dave Sleet had the heart attack. Oh my God, Sue. So Dave Sleet, who is a fantastic supporter and cheerleader for men's radio and women's radio, and he's head of ANA, which is a great big psychological organization. He's built it up from scratch. He had a heart attack at 19 years old. Blimey. Sue, next time he phones me up, I'll be nicer. I'll be nicer. Chrissy Richards from Spain. This is intro. Chrissy, you've missed some very, very fascinating stuff today. Hello, just remember the time. She doesn't live anywhere near Michael Verby. And Paul Rose is shocked by saying Noel Edmonds' ad-libs were scripted. That's my world turned upside down. Yeah, they hire people like me to do all that rubbish. Now then, it is extraordinary, isn't it? So after the heart attack, you had to take it easy.
Very much so, yeah.
By the way, if you had the COVID passed at that point, how were they looking after you in the hospital if you had COVID and a heart attack?
Now, the COVID had gone. I was just left with no smell or taste.
Okay. Has that come back now?
It has, yeah. I used some aromatherapy oils to like spark it off, like peppermint and really strong smells.
Yeah.
And then one day, no, actually it was 1 hour, I was just eating a biscuit which tasted like cardboard, and all of a sudden I could taste it. And it was just like,
wow.
Yeah.
I can't imagine not being able to taste or smell. That's quite extraordinary.
Well, I told my wife it's the perfect time for her to kill me because she could have given me a glass of bleach and I wouldn't have known. I would have drunk that glass of bleach because I couldn't smell it.
So she would have been saying, darling, you weren't thinking of me when you were dying and putting the business 17 places above me. Darling, can you smell almonds by any chance? No, this wine tastes delicious, dear. That is good. She must have been both terrified, worried, out of her mind with fear and all the rest of it, or was she just going, silly soddy works too hard, which is the next thing.
She did mention that, but I mean, it was worse for her because she wasn't even allowed to up to the hospital to see me
because of COVID.
Of COVID, yeah. So she had to rely on me getting in contact with her, which of course I couldn't do because my phone was flat by that point. And
right. Well, lucky it was just your phone that flatlined and not you, if I may say.
No, absolutely, yeah.
I always think the more morbid the situation, the more needed is humour, because otherwise we will go around the bend. Wow, this is. I'm going to read this out. If I put this up on screen, it will disappear, but I'll read it out. This is from Paul Claridge, James. A short time after my cancer diagnosis, so Paul got cancer. There isn't any good cancer, but he got it really bad. And his attitude goes to everything we try and do here at MRS. He's amazing. A short time after my cancer diagnosis, my tumor caused a massive hemorrhage. I was rushed to hospital in the middle of the night. I hemorrhaged again in A&E. Was on the verge of cardiac arrest and was rushed in to resuscitation, where a crash team worked on me very quickly. To all purposes, I was dying. However, one of the doctors who I had joked with earlier calmed me down with a brilliant gag. I won't let you die on my shift, Paul. I hate the bloody paperwork. Nevertheless, they saved my life. Well, I'm glad they did. Wow, and this is it. And this is from Paul Rose. That must have been a pain James, getting poisoned while you've lost your sense of taste to COVID. You don't taste the almonds. Precisely so. Precisely so. So you had to ease up from work,
Yeah.
but did you? But
I did
you?
actually, yeah. It kind of forced me to take a step back and realize that you can't just do it all in one hit. But I also had to leave off on the exercising that I've been doing and all of
Because
that.
you've lost, you don't mind me saying, you've lost a tremendous amount of weight. I mean, you look great.
30 kilos so far.
30 kilos, that's 65 pounds, something like that. Yeah, well, kilo's 2.2 pounds, so 30
Right.
times. So, I don't know. Let's call it 30. Let's call it 35 pounds. It's bloody huge. It's a lot. Several stone.
It is.
This. How much of the stress? Because this is all about mental health, of course. How much of the stress of work precipitated the heart attack?
Oh, I'd have said it was 90% of the cause. They also said it was COVID because, of course, you get blood clots in your lungs. They escape.
Oh my God!
Yeah, they go into your bloodstream and they can either give you a heart attack, like me, or worse, it'll go up and give you a stroke because it'll get into your brain.
Oh my God!
So in that sense, I was quite lucky. But my lifestyle hadn't been helping. I was on the bags.
Yeah, because I've noticed. I mean, like when we were chatting before the show, you're vaping. You've been vaping during this conversation. So do you? Because you were a pretty heavy smoker or not? Yes.
I was getting up to nearly 40 a day.
Oh bloody hell, man!
Yeah.
Because I remember when I came up to see you, so I'm just popping outside for a cigarette, I thought, come on, James. Wow. Paul Rose is this. And this is a very good question. Was it confirmed that it was COVID that ultimately gave you the heart attack?
No, they said so, but I reckon that's more of a knee-jerk reaction, just to blame everything on COVID.
Right.
It was 90% the stress factor. Dealing with certain individuals, which we won't name, and me smoking too much.
Everybody, it wasn't me. It was not me. I can.
No, it wasn't you. No.
It was actually not me. I know people.
I think it was your book, Russ. You know, it just scared me so much.
Yeah, that would be just awful. How did you like the book? Well, it was so scary. It gave me a heart attack. This is a great question coming in from Edinburgh from our chum Veronica Curran, who I've never met, but she's so supportive. Has this made you slow down, James, and change your lifestyle? Quick thinking people around James no doubt saved his life. Absolutely. That NHS, all praise to them.
Definitely.
But has it made you rethink?
It has, yes. I mean, not just because I had to rethink it, but also because one of the side effects of the heart attack is it completely knocks you for six health-wise. So I've got like lots less energy, can't do a lot of things, have to sleep an awful lot more. It's taken me a long time to get my fitness level up to anything, well, even anywhere near close to what it was before. But yeah, in business, yes, I'm not sweating the small things like I used to.
But how have you talked to us? This is an important thing because it really affects everyone who's watching the show from all, and you can see from all over the world and all over the UK. How have you managed to talk to yourself? Because I understand about being a workaholic and I know how you live, breathe, and, I get it. But how have you managed to give yourself a good talking to? How?
Well, my wife dragged me over the hot coals for a start, so that helped.
Yes.
But it was just realizing that I don't have to do it all the same day. It can be done the next day or the next day. Certain projects take longer, so I don't stress about it so much. And I got myself a phone for work and a phone for homework, whereas before it was all the same number. So now at come 6 o'clock, I don't check my emails, I don't answer messages until the next day, because if they're sending me emails or messages, it's not urgent. If it was urgent and website was just blown up, they'd have called me.
You see, this is something that I've got loads of messages coming in, so we'll deal with those in a sec. But this is something we talk about so much on MRS and WRS, is that people, because of social media and because of technology, people expect you to be available literally 24 hours a day.
Oh yeah.
Now, when you and I were growing up, I'm older than you are, but when we were growing up, you had 9 to 5, like the Dolly Parton song, and that was work. You'd get to work at 9 o'clock in the morning, you'd leave at 5 o'clock. That was it. And there weren't mobile phones, and there was none of that nonsense, and you would not get a call from your boss. Different in the advertising world because we had deadlines, and I'd often be there all hours. But that was partly my choice, and partly because of the industry that I absolutely adored, and I loved every second of it. I never thought of it as work. But with technology, of which you are in the very center, you're in the epicenter of it. There's this mental attitude, which is, well, I need James MacArthur. I don't care. It's 10 o'clock at night. I've got to get him. And it's like, we've got to re-educate ourselves. We really do.
Oh, I was fielding calls at 12 o'clock at night, 5 a.m. in the morning. And it's not a healthy lifestyle to lead.
But when these folks phoned you at these crazy hours, and not even I would do that, whatever it was, it kind of can wait. Unless you're in a burning building, it can kind of wait, right? It's really not the end of the world. Were you polite? I mean, did this add to the stress, or did you say, look, piss off, it's midnight, I'll deal with it tomorrow morning when I get to the office?
No, I at the time I was always very polite and would try and deal with it there and then, which was crazy. Now I just turn to answer the text.
No, turn the phone off. I'm with you. Here's a question from Paul Rose. The heart attack, would it have happened anyway? In other words, putting COVID to one side, would it have happened anyway given your lifestyle?
Oh, almost definitely. Oh, almost definitely. I mean, the COVID might have sped it up, but I was heading down that path. No issue.
That's interesting. Let's dash back to the south of Spain. This is Michael Verby. He's talking about his dad, Malcolm, who was my father's. It's so weird how life works. He was my father's best friend. And Malcolm would have had 40 cigarettes by lunchtime.
Oh, God.
And my dad was a very heavy smoker. And then he got throat cancer. That wasn't so great. Chrissy Richards, again in Spain, but nowhere near Michael, in the middle of Spain, in a farm. Stress is the big factor. My old boss was very slim, didn't smoke, didn't drink, and had several heart attacks. Oh my God, the last one killed him, aged 48. It was the stress of his job. How do you think we can de-stress, not distressed? How do we de-stress? What do you do now?
Well, the main thing I do is get away from all these screens that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Take a step away. This month, for instance, I've been doing a mile a day in September for dementia to raise money.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you. Last we had a whole dementia week. Not last week. The week before, we dedicated all of the daily shows because it was suddenly because my mum had it for 16 years, so it was such a huge subject, and it's such a non-sexy subject. It doesn't get the press and the publicity that it totally deserves. So tell us about what you're doing, please.
Well, the cardio nurses and everything said I needed to walk at least a mile a day just to try and get my fitness levels back to what they were before the heart attack. And this popped up on my timeline, and I thought, no, that's a very good idea, because if it was just me saying I need to walk a mile a day, I just wouldn't do it, because it's too easy to say, well, yeah.
Precisely.
But if I've committed to this and raising money for a good cause, it forces me out the door. And of course, this one's coming to an end in a couple of days. So next month, I've signed up with Scotty's Little Soldiers to do 1,000 press-ups in October. And in fact, most of my family have also signed up to do the same thing.
I don't want to be rude, right? And we're going to talk about Scotty's Little Soldiers in a sec. I don't want to be rude. When was the last time you did a press-up?
2 days ago.
How many are you able to do? How
Because
many?
I signed up for Scottish Little Soldiers, I thought I better make sure I can still do a press up.
They're bloody
And
hard. They're hard.
well, but before the heart attack, I was averaging between 100 to 120 press ups a day. And
Were
2 days
you?
ago, yeah. Well, I
Wow.
set myself what I called the P challenge, which is every time I went for a P, I did 10 press ups.
Christ, in my case, I'd do 30,000 press ups a day.
Excellent. Well, you should join
I
up.
would. I mean, that's a bare minimum.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I managed 4.
Four.
That's what I managed as 4. So I'm hoping I can really improve on this and get up to the 33 I need to do every day.
So, what's the deal with Scottish Little Soldiers? Talk us about it. It sounds interesting.
Well, they offer bereavement services for forces personnel for the children.
That's a gorgeous. I didn't realize that's what it was.
Yeah,
that's magnificent.
So they offer counselling, they offer bereavement services, they offer grants for education, they offer days out and respite camps, just to help put the smiles back on their faces and make sure they know they're not alone. So it's a fantastic charity, and the more I can do to help raise awareness of it, the better.
So we were hoping to get some of the grand fromages from the organisation on, but they couldn't make it today. Would you do me a personal favour? Reach out to them. If they want to come on Wednesday, they can come on. If they want to pop on Friday, that would be great. It's something I hugely, hugely believe in. I'd never heard of this before, but I'd love to give them airtime. So just to be clear, to make sure that I've got this straight, it's to support children whose mum or dad has been presumably killed in action while serving in the armed forces.
Yeah, all forces personnel, their children, and everyone. And it helps the remaining parent as well, because if they go off to a respite camp where they can do fun activities, the parent is also getting a break and helping with their bereavement as well.
Who thought of this? It's a beautiful thing.
It was an army widow called Nikki Scott, hence the Scottish Little Soldiers, who lost her husband, Corporal Lee Scott, in Afghanistan in 2009.
You know, the thing is, it's a slight diversion here, James. Forgive me. But when you hear something like that, and then you see what Biden did, you think, what the hell for? This is what's so sad. This is, it's not a political statement. It's a statement about life. You know, there is someone who's died. The family's devastated, and you think, for what? For what? That's that's the tragedy.
It's all gone straight back to the way it was beforehand.
Oh, it went back in about an hour. I mean, I'm joking aside. It's an absolutely. I think
in my eyes, it's a criminal thing to have done. In my eyes.
Thank you, James. I couldn't agree with you more. You know, and it's not like it was like, oh, I've run out of milk, and then you rush off to the corner shop because you've run out of milk. You don't suddenly say, I've run out of something like 18 billion pounds worth of equipment, which I've just handed over to the enemy that I've been fighting for 20. I'm sorry. I know it's a digression, but it's about the human condition. And things, when you read things like that, and I don't know about you, I got so angry, and I thought, there's nothing I can do about it, which is stress.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm powerless. I'm just a tiny little individual. What am I going to do? Fight the American system? Of course not. Well, and it's just the injustice of it.
Mail and that'll reduce your stress level for a start.
Well, I actually don't read newspapers. This is from up in Edinburgh, from Veronica Curran. People have got to realise the stress on our organs due to infections, let alone COVID. We need to repair damage, boost our energy and immune systems. Mental health. We slowed down in lockdown. People started noticing so much more about themselves. And I have to say, Veronica, a lot of people didn't like what they saw. I don't think we should forget that. A lot of people had the time to stop running around, like lunatics, and it was like, oh, I don't like my life. I'm not sure I like my wife or my husband or something like that. Well, Michael Point from Spain, but trillions made by arms suppliers. Yeah, totally so. Back to Spain, another part of it. It says I could do press ups when I was 60. I beat my brother. Only 10 though. Well, 10 now at 73. I couldn't do them. Come on, Chrissy. I'd pay to see that. To be honest, absolutely. We're paid to see it, darling. Totally would. Now, dealing with stress. You're doing the walking, yes?
Yeah.
Have you thought? I'm not being facetious. Have you thought about getting a dog? Because if the reason I say this, because of my little mini schnauzer, I have to go walking. So I walk between 3 to 5 miles every day without fail, whatever happens, because she needs a walk, and I love it. It's when I listen to my audio books and I catch up on all books and podcasts and everything, and have time to think. So I do recommend it. I hate exercise.
Oddly enough, we have been talking about dogs.
Yeah.
But of course, we've got 2 cats, so at the moment, the dog would eat them. But it is something I've been thinking about.
Not necessarily. If you got a puppy that was introduced, look, I'm not an expert in the field, but if you got a puppy that was introduced to the cats would hate them. I mean, they're cats, so I haven't really got much to say because they're cats. I'm actually thinking about getting a second dog. I'm thinking about because they add so much to your life. They add so much to your life in terms of you have to look after it because it can't do anything for itself.
Well, and it's clinically proven that stroking a pet reduces stress.
Well, I do that a lot, although it pisses her off because she just likes to sleep now. She's 12, so her idea of a full day is might wander from the settee to the bed to the settee, back to the basket. She's done. That's it. That's an exciting day for her. That's all she wants to do. Now, while I've still got you, let's talk about the. Hang on. Here we are. First aid trained. This is what is Paul Claridge saying? Speaking as someone who is first aid trained, I would urge as many people as possible to book themselves on a first aid course. Totally. If you only learn basic CPR, you could save a life. I know I've done it for real twice. And Paul wasn't even thanked for it, which is another story. He saved a woman's life. And he got told off for taking time off work. I'm not making it up. I'm not making it up. Have you ever heard anything so bizarre? He literally saved this woman's life. She collapsed. And he saved her because he knew CPR. And he got told off. We don't want any more excuses from you, Mr. Claridge. We don't want any more.
I'd have been quitting my job at that point.
I'd have just told him to stuff it. Now, a lot of people talk about, and this is an area which you are an expert. You're right in the center of all things tech. When tech goes wrong, as it has with me last week, it's very, very. I'm not talking about. Forget me. It's very stressful, isn't it? We're so reliant upon it.
Oh yeah.
The levels of stress that it causes when we're hacked or when the computer goes on the fritz or whatever, it sends our stress levels through the roof, which is it's ridiculous, but
so much.
It is. Do you have any views on social media?
I absolutely loathe it.
See, this is the fascinating thing, isn't it? That you're in the heart of it and you loathe it.
If I could get rid of Facebook, I would straight away. But I've got so many business pages on there for clients that obviously I can never do that. But I try never to. I've got a blocker on my Chrome for Facebook, which stops the timeline even showing up and gives you inspirational quotes instead. So I'm not distracted by, I don't know, fuel crisis posts or someone's dinner. All I see is a motivational quote, and that's me done.
People think that I love social media, but I use it mostly to write gags. And the last gag I wrote was on my friend Leslie Demise's timeline. I've known her since 1984. So listen to this. This is the lunatic world in which we live. She lives in a close, and a stranger parked their car and blocked everybody in. So everyone was saying, well, what the hell are we going to do? And I just happened to see this. So I wrote a silly little joke, and Facebook have restricted my Facebook activity. So I can't do anything live because of a little joke about parking. 30-day ban, 30-day restriction. And of course, as you know, all of the broadcasts go out live. And so I've kind of lodged a complaint saying, well, forget me. You're not helping what we're trying to do with mental health. Plus, you're causing me a mental health aggravation. Paul Rose coming. I want to come back to the social media thing. And by the way, thank you so much for your time. But I'm taking you away from work, which is great. James, the cats would deal with a pup like it was their baby. Well, back to the dogs. It's therapeutic having pets. I have a rescue cat, but plan an Xmas Frenchie pup. I hope that's not a euphemism. Sounds saucy. Walking a dog has top-to-toe therapy. Absolutely. Sue Sleet up in Fife. We rescued a cat, which then attacked. What I love is the size of the dog. Wait for this. We rescued a cat, which would then attack my German Shepherd dog as soon as they met. My dog has always cowered to her after that. Holy God. And this is from Paul Rose. I'd like to give a special thanks to St. John Ambulance. I completed the Shine Walk on the weekend, but when I got to the station to head home, I felt very unwell and had to lie down. A St. John's chap was walking past and immediately came to see how he could help. I was okay, but very grateful for his offer. So easy to be so dismissive of everybody, isn't it? And then until you need them. And then when you need them, you think, aren't they great? So one of the things we've got time. As long as you've got time, I know you're running an empire, but as long as you've got time, one of the things we deal about and discuss a lot with social media, putting aside the complete arses that can inhabit it and very rude people, we understand that, especially for children, is the bullying and the trolling. It is shocking. We had a guest on whose daughter ended her own life because of online bullying. When you and I were at school, if you were bullied, which I wasn't, but if you were, it ended at the school gates when your mum or your auntie or someone would come and pick you up. You went home, you had a jam sandwich, watched the Flintstones, life was fine.
Not for me. I was at boarding school, so they carried on bullying me all.
Oh, I was at boarding school too. Which probably explains why you and I get on, why we're so independent. It explains why we're so independent. I was sent to boarding school at age 9. I'd never been away from home before. And I emerged aged 18. And then my folks thought, I wonder why we can't interact with Russ. Because you created a monster. That's why. You learn, you survive and you become very hardcore.
Absolutely.
You become very, very, it's sink or swim. And when people think it's to do with mental health and attitude, you're 9 years old, you're sent into a really vicious environment, and you learn to cope like that, because otherwise your life's going to be hell. And I decided from day one my life was not going to be hell, and it was fine. It was all right. So but that's a whole different conversation. This bullying, why don't the social media companies who have so much power, so much influence, why don't they curtail it? How can they not do it?
Well, I mean, it's a massive issue, but how, in some ways, how can they? They'd have to read every single post and every one of our messages. So there'd be a massive freedom, a privacy issue there straight away. If it's been reported, okay, they can do something about it then. But then you've got the other people who report posts just because they don't like what you've said.
Undoubtedly, with my little joke about parking, that's somebody reported.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's a hard one to do, because how can they, without curtailing our freedoms, how can they monitor it and do anything about it? They've got to rely on us reporting it, and it's got to be relying on people reporting actual abuse and bullying rather than, I don't like your joke about a parking space.
Yeah, there's two big issues here. Number one, Freedom of speech. Freedom of speech cannot say, I hate everyone with ponytails. They should all be taken out and shot. That's not precisely. That's not freedom of speech. That's just
No,
hate
no.
speech. I'm making a stupid example.
But do you
Excuse
want
me. I'm
them
making a.
reading all your messages?
Hmm?
Do you want them reading your messages that you've sent in private
My
conversation?
view is very simple with this. Okay, if you put something on Facebook or Twitter, it's the same as publishing. And my view has always been the
I
same.
agree.
Don't put something on Facebook or Twitter that you, or an email, quite frankly, but we're not talking about emails, that you don't want read out in court. You've got to
Absolutely.
treat it exactly the same as if it was going to be read out in court. And also, I treat it the same way if it was a newspaper. If I write something racist and revolting in the Daily Mail or the Guardian, it doesn't matter, a newspaper, then you know there's going to be a legal action, etc. I don't think, because it's in the public domain, the rules of publishing and all the rest of it, and libel and slander should apply. I truly do.
I agree. But a lot of the bullying goes on in WhatsApp messages,
Oh, I see.
Messenger,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
or just creating groups and then leaving other people out, which is, psychological bullying as well. How do you monitor and change that?
Well, that's very, very hard. Veronica Curran says bullies are visible, but on social media there is no escape. Russ, look at adults; it's not age related. No, I get that, but Veronica, I would answer this: if you're an adult and somebody leaves you off a WhatsApp group or a Facebook group, you can go, "Who gives a shit?" I mean, I'll be honest, who cares? I'm really not worried. It doesn't bother me, right? But when you're a child and you're at school and you've got this burning, everyone's got to love me, I've got to be popular, I've got to do this, I've got to look like the people on Love Island, because you haven't had the experience of life, it does hit you. They don't have the same mental capacity like James and I and everybody watching and listening to this show. Somebody gets on you and says, "Oh, Sodom," and you just get, you move on because we're grown up. But when you're a kid, oh God, I've got a spot on my face, and it's the end of the world. Does my hair look all of these things, which sound silly, but to them are the most important things in the world, and that's what we have to bear in mind. It's a big difference between, being a kid and being an adult. On the same basis, Russ, will there be a legal action against Angela? Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, Angela Rayner, I don't want to go down that route, but it's just nuts. What have we got here,
Just
Paul?
tell me the end of that sentence. That's the one that made me laugh.
What? Yeah, blah, blah. Paul Claridge, I do cat sitting for friends when they're away. It would be weird if you did cat sitting when they were sitting in the same room. I mean, that would just be bizarre. How lazy would that be? I find it so therapeutic, especially when the cats cuddle up to me on the bed. There's nothing I like.
Oh, Paul.
Paul Claridge, you had me. I'm not reading the rest of that out. You can read it for yourself on the screen. And if you're listening on Deluxe Radio and Radio Waves, I'm sorry. I'm not reading that out because I will never be able to stop laughing. Paul Rose, you really should have read ahead, Russ. I'm a fool. I'm a fool to myself. I trusted Paul Claridge. It is interesting that the social media, of which, of course, you have to set up a lot of these things for your business. It's still the Wild West, isn't it? Really.
The whole internet is the Wild West. It's very difficult to monitor and police a digital format.
As an expert, I mean, my view as a non-expert, just as a punter, was it was always going to be completely ungovernable. Do you think it will remain that way?
Well, you've got to look at some of the countries that have tried to govern it, like North Korea, Russia, who just turn it off for a week just because they can. The level of freedoms they've got, they're just being stripped away, and it's going to be very hard to try and do anything really positive on the internet or any of these forums without restricting levels of freedom. But as you said, freedom of speech is one thing, but if you make idiotic statements, they shouldn't have the same balance of credibility as someone who's actually making a sensible statement.
But the thing that I always say, because of social media, take COVID, just as an example, you choose anything you like, but use COVID as an example. Doreen, the hairdresser from Stoke-on-Trent, has as much weight as someone who has studied medicine and is a scientist and has proper professional qualifications for the last 15 years. Suddenly, we've all got to listen to her completely stupid comments, which are based on nothing except tittle-tattle, rather than someone who actually knows what they're talking about.
It's the ones that say, "Oh, do your own research. It's all out there." They wind me up so much because it's like, well, so you're funding a think tank, you're doing actual physical studies, you're testing on humans, or are you just using Google and YouTube to look up conspiracy theories to justify your crazy views?
It's been terrifying. Wow, messages coming in thick and fast now. Look at this. Veronica, I hate the life our kids have. My 17-year-old son doesn't do social media. None of my kids do it. But gaming is vile. Girls have pressure I couldn't have coped with. Now, gaming, one of our first guests was gaming addiction. We haven't got time to talk about it now, but we are talking, it's as bad as being addicted to crack cocaine. I'm not kidding you. It is disgusting. This is a very long thing from David Wimble, who's a very nice man. I have been abused by a website for over 6 years because I'm a district councillor. The person, I'm not going to get into any details, thinks it's open season to just abuse me. Once his actions cost me a job. It came down to 2 people and they were struggling to decide. So they Googled me and found a post that said I was seen driving a car without tax, MOT, or insurance. The fact that at the time I was in the Caribbean, or regardless of the fact that I'd sold it 6 months earlier since then, he posted an attack on me every couple of weeks. Wowzer.
That's terrible.
You couldn't meet a nicer person than David Wimble. He's a charming man. But this is what happened. I was talking to someone the other day. No, they were a guest. What am I talking about? They were a guest. And they said this, which stunned me. When people go for very, very high-powered jobs, I mean really serious positions, the company that they're applying to will have gone through their social media history. And people forget that. And they will dig up every little nasty thing about you if they think it's going to affect their business. It's very important to bear that in mind. It's an extraordinary thing.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody was doing. There was a top lawyer in America, top lawyer, and he had the top 4 candidates. They were scheduled to be like governmental people, like very, very top. He said, "I'm going to," and it was a lecture just to these 4. It was a special course. He said, "I can tell you now, none of you are going to get a job." And they went, "What?" It was all on Zoom. And he said, "I just spent 30 minutes on each of you. That's all I did. And I've dug up this. Here's a picture of you doing this." And he went through each of them. They were devastated. And this is at the very top level. So please be careful. James, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to, unfortunately for you, have to speak to you immediately after the show because I desperately need your help. James MacArthur, I'm so pleased you're with us. Thank you for everything you do for MRS and WRS. I really appreciate it. And stay well and, continue.
Do my best.
And please put your wife a little bit further up the totem pole next time. That's all I get to say. James,
I'm just hoping she didn't listen.
No. Thank God she. No. Wow. I'll speak to you soon. James MacArthur. What a lovely guy he is. Wow. Interesting, isn't it? It's really interesting. Your comments have been just brilliant today. Obviously. Oh wow, what is this? It would blow your mind, says Veronica Curran. If I opened up on that gaming, it's an open book on social media. I am not a tech, but well, it's ghastly. You've got to be very, very, very careful. So many issues came there, isn't it? Isn't it fascinating what would go through your mind if you thought those were your final moments? Extraordinary, isn't it? He's such a nice man, James MacArthur. And it's fascinating that we're so obsessed with work. When we actually think that's it, that's the end, what are we thinking about? We're thinking about work. Wow. That's it. Bless you for all your amazing comments today. Your interaction, it's It's so encouraging. It's so positive. And if we've helped in any way, I know you helped me. Never think you don't. You guys help me. And I hope here at MRS we can help all of you. To all of you all over the world, I will be back on Wednesday at the same time, 12 o'clock. Until then, stay safe, be happy, try and keep out of trouble. I know it's difficult. Give it a go.